By this he means she can be kicked at, mutilated, sold like a commodity, burnt at the stake,
raped.
You're a woman now,
he says,
and he walks away.
You pay all that money to ask me some questions. No fucking.
No. Part of our agreement is that you can't tell anyone what we're doing here.
I won't.
Your boss,
Are you crazy?
the other girls.
Give me 100 more each time we meet, and I won't tell them.
You're there to get evidence.
Exactly. I have an investigation to build. I needed him to rape her so I can have proof to hand to a judge that this girl is in fact forced to live in this hell. It looked at me like she was terrified out of her mind, but she keeps dancing. And after a while, our eyes meet.
You don't understand how things work in this city, do you? Shut this place down so start another brothel right here the next day, right here. Now what are you gonna do? Hit me?
Of course not.
Push me around until you get what you came
No.
for? Rape me?
No.
Kill me?
No, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I want to help you.
Leave.
No, listen, I'm here to help you. That's what this is. This nightmare will be over very soon, I promise.
The color of night.
I was so beautiful.
With a night dress, perfectly soft and white.
Warm to the touch.
I was so beautiful.
Her skin clean and washed.
But she is no longer.
She scours her mind for one memory of that face.
Once for one.
Just one gentle touch.
Run!
Said the angel in the middle of the night.
Run!
Said the angel, it gave you such a fright.
Run!
Said your angel, you ran the wrong way.
Run!
Said your angel, but you couldn't get away.
Angel coming back, gonna take you away. Angel coming back, gonna take you away.
What is a common symptom or series of symptoms to look for in people who have been abused or assaulted?
Sure. So that's a great question because I think that unlike things that are medical, where there's actually very strong physical symptoms, when it comes to sexual abuse, those symptoms are much more hidden. So it is a harder thing to see. But very common things that I have seen that are important to take notice is looking at somebody's relationship with their body. That one thing I saw quite frequently with people who were survivors is the history of what's called self-inflicted violence. So cutting oneself, eating disorders. And I'm not saying if you have this that you have a history of sexual abuse, but there has been a common thread to that. What I also say is to look at any sudden changes in behavior. That a lot of that gets acted out sometimes sexually. That I find that if you have somebody who is very preoccupied with sex, what happens with someone who is a survivor is there's two layers of the trauma. The first is the trauma occurring. And the second layer, which has actually been shown to have longer detrimental effects, is the replaying of the trauma in one's mind. So it's when the trauma is forgotten. So at times, when people do things that may not make sense to us, right? They may end up being drawn to people who are abusive towards them, whether it's friendships or relationships. What I always say is, be curious about it, but don't judge it. Ask them, be like, I see that, I've noticed that you're always around people who aren't treating you well. What's going on with that? I want to mention it, not just for girls, but also boys, because I think that that's a really underserviced population. That with girls, 1 in 6 is the statistic, that 1 in 6 will experience some form of sexual abuse before the age of 18. I'm sorry, let me go back. Actually, that's the statistic for boys. That's 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls. So again, if we look at that, right, think about that, of if you line up a group of people, 1 in 4 girls, 1 in 6 boys. And that was a study done by the Center Against Disease Control. They did that study. So it is such a huge epidemic. We live in a society where there's so much victim blaming. We see articles about well, why was she wearing that dress? But we don't hear, well, why was he drinking all of that? Right? We don't hear that. We should hear that. You should say no. Anything feels uncomfortable, you say no. I think that this happens a lot more, I see, with girls in society, but it certainly happens with boys, is that we're taught to be nice, we're taught to be obedient, we're taught to respect adults. And I think that it's something that, while we have to be able to conform to society to a degree, because we all have to cohabitate together, that we also have to have the freedom to use our voice when something doesn't feel right. So given that permission, being modeled that is really helpful.